Hey, Dad, how you doing, sir?
Yeah.
Good. Hey, Dad, how you doing, sir? Good. Oh, yeah, this is good. What is Candy Camel?
That's a serious delight.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm good.
How you doing? All right, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yes.
Well, no. Bring it down for you. About two. We almost put a new one.
Really?
For the kids.
Rock and put it down.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
It's called that,
Natural.
with the natural.
Natural.
But that's gonna be good. What color is it? It's like.
Almost like some.
Come on, they don't be tired of putting us on. I didn't know.
Yes, he did.
I didn't hear. You got to bring that on. I can't. Yeah. Yes, indeed. So,
And let's see.
well, you got it.
That's his job.
All right. The clock system. That's all. All right, thank you. It's now 6 p.m. The chair will call us January 5th, 2022 special call Fairfield County School Board meeting to order. The public has been duly notified, Ms. Brown, and I do confirm quorum. It's time. I just want to welcome everybody to this special call, January 5th board meeting out there and Facebook Live. All who support the district, we thank you. Continue to support us. I want to say this before we give it over to the pledge of allegiance and the moment of silence. Been notified that Mrs. Rhonda Harris, this is our vice chair sister, very ill. Put it that way. And so we want to have a moment of silence as well as some others that I may not know about. So, Mr. Siebels, at this time, we're going to give it to you.
Understand. Let's repeat the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's have a moment of silence.
At this time, we would need a motion for approval of the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Motion has been made by Ms. Harrison, seconded by Mrs. Green to present the agenda as presented. All in favor, so by the raising of the right hand. There will be 7-0. Thank you. Do we have any public comment, Mrs. C?
No.
Okay, we will move on from there. At this time, we will have a superintendent report from Dr. Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate you joining me with relatively short notice. But before I get to my presentation, which is the purpose for which we are here today, I'd like to acknowledge Liz Mann and the Fairfield Medical Associate staff for partnering with the school district on yesterday to sponsor the testing event that we had at Fairfield Middle School. They did an absolutely remarkable job. We arrived, and I got there probably about 3:45. The event didn't start until 4:30. We probably had 125 cars in line at 3:45. And so it was an absolute remarkable success. I'd also like to acknowledge about 14 staff members who also volunteered to make this event a reality on yesterday. I had people from bus drivers, the teachers, the district office staff, who were ready, willing, and able to brave the element to ensure that we could get our faculty, staff, community, parents, anyone who showed up was able to be tested for COVID-19. I sent out an email which you all were copied, and within, I asked for 10 volunteers. I got 10 volunteers, I bet you, in 4 minutes. And so that just speaks to the commitment of the individual staff members we have who work with the Fairfield County School District. We started about 4:30. We didn't leave there until 8:45, somewhere around there. And it was bumper to bumper from 4:30 to 8:45. Okay, bumper to bumper. I had an update from this man relative to how many tests were administered, but it was non-stop for the entire time. As you know, last night it was a bit nippy, but they were not discouraged. No one was complaining. They bundled up, braved the cold, and did what needed to be done. And so I am just immensely grateful to all of the volunteers and to Fairfield Medical Associates. I sent her an email early this morning asking her to thank her staff who came and did that for us. And so I wanted to acknowledge them and the volunteers. And so the reason we are here today is to talk about some of our safety protocols in the midst of this rising COVID-19 infection numbers. And, up until now, we have strongly encouraged masks, but have not mandated such. And people have asked me, do I think there would be a time where I would make a different recommendation? And my response has always been, well, there could be if I find that we're in a position where we are not really complying with the recommendation in significant numbers, or we begin to see a significant surge that I think represents some safety concerns to students and staff members. And I think we're at that point now. You have been reading the news reports and you see this tremendous surge across not only South Carolina, but the country relative to this Omicron variant. You see hospitalizations are up. Fortunately, deaths are not up to the extent that they were during Delta at this time. We are seeing a significant number of young people coming in contact with the virus. And I want to share a few statistics. DA reported 9,000 COVID-19 cases last Wednesday. This was the highest single day case since the COVID-19 crisis. Yesterday, we had about 7,000 cases. The positivity rate last week was over 20%. Over 20%, that's 1 out of every 5 people who test came back positive. That is remarkable. DHEC recommends that the rate be no more than 5%. And so we're at over 20%. We've seen a significant increase in COVID positive children. As you remember, when this virus was initially uncovered, we didn't necessarily see a lot of children contracting COVID-19, much less being hospitalized, but that has since changed. We're beginning to see lots of slowdowns in terms of air travel. You see lots of flights being canceled because people calling out work. You see the hospitals are really struggling to operate because there's so many people who are calling out work. And the one thing that we have to be concerned about is we try and maintain in-person instruction. That is always going to be a priority, that we don't have to pivot to virtual, but you can't maintain in-person instruction if your staff are home, okay? And so if we can't keep faculty and staff safe, we get so many bus drivers and teachers and cafeteria workers and clerical staff, and we get so many people who are contracting the virus and have to quarantine, it inhibits our ability to maintain in-person instruction. So all of the measures that we're taking right now are to do all we can to not only keep our faculty, staff, and students safe, but also to maintain in-person instruction because we recognize the benefits of such. The CDC has been recommending universal masking for quite a while now. And so even though we've not done that as a state and we've not done that as a district, the CDC has recommended that. DHEC has recommended universal masking indoors as well, even though we have not done that. You read about some changes to the isolation and quarantine protocol where students who come into contact with COVID-19 who are positive, who do not experience any symptoms after 5 days can return after 5 days and not have to isolate for 7 or 10 days. But as a part of that recommendation, you're supposed to mask between 5 and 10 days. So if you're positive and you don't have any symptoms, you can return after 5 days, but you're supposed to mask between 5 and 10. Now, we will move forward adopting those recommendations. But as I thought about adopting those recommendations, it's going to be impossible to adopt those recommendations without a universal mask mandate. Because trying to remember who is in day 5, who's in day 8, who's in day 7, who's supposed to be wearing a mask, who's not supposed to be wearing a mask, that's more than staff can maintain. So if you're going to adopt that 5-day isolation protocol, I think it's only prudent, particularly given the landscape right now, that you move forward with a universal mask requirement for all student, faculty, and staff. And so, those are the reasons that I have asked you to consider this recommendation. Mr. Miller talks to me pretty regularly, and he knows that I don't make any rash decisions. I ponder on things probably more than I should. And so I have been thinking about this for several days. Probably 7, 8, 9 days. I've been bouncing around the pros and cons. When you make the move and you don't make the move, do you come back? Do you wait and see how the numbers look? After that, do you make a recommendation? And I said, well, if you feel as if that's where we are now, why should you wait, JR? I'm talking to myself now this week before you make that recommendation. And so I decided it's time to make it. The question is, how long will such a recommendation be in place? The answer is as long as it's needed. I'm hopeful that the recommendation won't need to be in place very long. But obviously, I don't know where we're gonna be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks from now relative to COVID-19. If the numbers continue to rise as they have been over the last couple of weeks, then obviously we wouldn't be in a position to pivot away from this. But we are hopeful that the numbers will improve. And so I think this is going to be a very vital step to us creating the most safe environment for students, faculty, and staff, and the ability to maintain in-person instruction. If you have been reading the news, if you've been watching the news, you probably have seen that many districts across the country have pivoted to virtual learning as a function of COVID-19. We don't want to be in a situation where we have to, because we recognize the value of in-person instruction, but you have to be proactive for that to happen. And so as a result of all of those factors, that is my recommendation that we move forward. A universal mask requirement beginning tomorrow. Any questions?
That's a student motion. And then we'll come back with any questions. Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve district-wide mask mandate for all faculty, staff, students, and guests, which will require face coverings in district facilities.
I said,
Motion made by Ms. Harris, second by Mr. Davis, mask mandate. Now we can ask questions.
Chairman, oh, go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Green, I truly appreciate, what you did, especially on yesterday, because I had got a lot of calls about, will the district do anything to help do the testing? And as soon as I started getting all them calls, you sent the email out. I appreciate it, and I understand the importance. I don't like to wear masks either, but to keep everybody safe, we have to do what's necessary for all people. If it was up to me, I probably would have asked you to do it way before now, because I did ask about it, but I mean, the numbers are surging. I mean, people are getting sick. I know people in the hospital right now fighting for their life. If they're not gonna get the shots, you know, you got to put the mask in place, and I appreciate it. And it's not to, you know, take anybody's rights away. That's not what this is all about. It's just about trying to keep as many people safe as possible and properly wearing the mask. A lot of people put them on, but they don't properly wear them. So that's something I guess the school principals and all the faculty are gonna have to make sure that the kids keep the mask up and do certain things. And I don't know if they still gonna have like mask breaks like they did in the past. You could take it down or however they did, but truly this is a big step, and it needs to be put in place.
Mr. Davis.
Chairman Mills and Dr. Green. I'm sure that a lot of us have received a lot of calls from people within the community, Dr. Maris and this pandemic is going through right now. And I spoke to you a little earlier, Dr. Green. Some teachers and staff and other well parents had a question. Is there any way that we can possibly go to a virtual aspect until the tests come back, or could we prolong on school like they just starting that Monday? If you stated, you know, we can do that, but it's some, I guess you would say, consequences behind it. Could you bring some clarity to that, please?
Yes, and so we had a district, I know Ms. Green probably is familiar with this situation. They had planned to go virtual upon return from the Christmas holiday. If my memory serves me correct, I know one for sure, I think it may be two. The State Department intervened and indicated that if you go virtual and it's not related to weather, but just because of anticipated COVID numbers, those are days you're going to have to make up. And so those days were added to the calendar. And so if we made that decision, Mr. Davis, I don't think we would receive approval just to pivot to virtual learning. I suspect we would get the same response that they did, which is if you want to make Thursday and Friday virtual, you would just have to take off Thursday and Friday, make up Thursday and Friday. Okay. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is particularly at this point in time, obviously they were talking about doing it before they left on holiday, so they could plan for that. For us to make a pivot to virtual learning right now, even if we could, would be very difficult to pull off at this late hour. And so because of those two reasons, that's a recommendation I would not make.
And that was coming from the state superintendent. Right?
Yeah, state superintendent.
Mr. Green.
Mr. Chair, with this mandate, will masks be supplied, enough masks? Because I know in other districts, in other schools, they run out. So are we going to purchase plenty masks so everybody is supplied?
Yes. And so what I'll say, Mr. Green, is, we've been, stocking up all year long because, we have done a very good job of adhering to the recommendation. And so if you go to some of our school sites, the overwhelming majority of our students wear masks every day. And we have been providing those masks every day. Very often they don't bring them from home, but as soon as they get to school, they ask for one and they'll wear it for the entire day and come back the next day and ask for one. So we've been providing them all year long. My procurement director just made another order. We'll continue to stock up so we don't run into those kinds of issues. Obviously, with some of the challenges relative to shipping and getting items, you never can say what'll happen 2-3 weeks from now relative to supply. But at this point, we don't see any issues with having ample supply.
Mr. Green, Dr. Gordon, just wanted to say that I know a lot of times you make a statement, but we are this board. Good, I think, but I need to.
Yeah, turn on.
Go. I don't have to test it. A lot of time that our job as a board, we are the custodians of this book, meaning that every child in this district, we're responsible for. This board is responsible for every child in this district. Make sure they're safe and learn. We have to make sure our babies, our students are safe. That's big. Our parents, they're dependent on us. And so, in saying that, we as a board, when our superintendent made his recommendation, make sure our children are safe and our employees are safe, then I think that that's what we need. I'm saying that. Anybody else have any more remarks before we go? Dr. Jackson.
I have a question. What do we do if they don't adhere to the mask mandate?
Yeah, that's a good question, Pastor Jackson. It will be non-optional. And so the parents will be notified that students must adhere to the mask requirement. And so there is no scenario where students can just determine that I just choose not to adhere to it. Now, I'll tell you, there could be limited situations where there are some medical exemptions that we will acknowledge. If there is something documented, we may make some allowances to accommodate students if there are some medical exemption. But outside of that, then everyone will be required to adhere to the policy.
Could you possibly speak to an example of a medical exemption?
Yes. And so let's say there is an exceptional needs student who has some severe anxiety, who is unable to wear a mask because of that reason. That potentially could be something that is in a student's IEP. That is something that could be in a student's 504 plan, or that could be something that we simply receive documentation from a healthcare professional indicating what those conditions are. And then we could talk about ways that we could accommodate it. For example, maybe we create, which is not based on CDC guidelines as effective as masks, but maybe a shield of sorts or some other way to try and create as safe as an environment as we could for that students and the other students in a respective building.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
Chairman, Dr. Green, one other question I have, I'm pretty sure we will go back to where we give the parents the option of through virtual and in person. Again, we should give them that situation.
Okay, next question again.
What I want to know was, when we give the parents the option again to do virtual or in school?
So you mean, could parents apply to enroll in the virtual academy?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, so the wonderful virtual academy is already open and closed. But I spoke to Dr. Avery today and told him that we were going to extend the window after this latest increase in COVID-19 numbers. And so I've not met with Mr. Dixon yet to determine exactly how long, but we're going to extend the window just because of this recent spike in COVID-19 to give parents an additional opportunity to apply for the virtual academy. Now, I always like to qualify my words appropriately by saying they can apply to be a part of the virtual academy. Because if you were in the virtual academy apartment, you were participating in virtual learning last year, for example, and you were not successful, it would not be prudent for us to put you in the virtual academy again. Okay? And so we want to ensure that students are in a position where they can experience success. And as a result, we aren't going to enroll someone in a virtual environment who has shown that they are not capable of being successful in such an environment.
But Dr. Green, go back to that mask mandate when you're talking about you said if you don't know how long it may be.
Yeah.
It may be 2 weeks, so kind of elaborate on that because I want to make sure that people listening we're clear.
Yeah, and so, that's a very good question, Chairman Miller. The question is how long will we have to move to this, indoor mask requirement? And my answer is as long as the data dictates that we should. And as soon as we find that it's not necessary for us to maintain a mask mandate in order to create a safe environment, then we'll return back to where we were. Now, obviously, I'm not a soothsayer or a fortune teller, so I can't necessarily tell you where we're going to be 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 2 days from now. But in the event that, some of the projections that I have read are accurate, I've heard that by the time we get through middle of February or sorts, the numbers should start to get back to normal. Okay. Now that's assuming we don't have another variant. Okay, and that's talking about the Omicron variant. So you're right. As soon as we're in a position where we feel we can relax our mask requirements, then we'll do so. It's not as if we're just trying to create these environments and requirements where we don't feel we need to, which is obvious. Even when some districts are going to a mask requirement, we have not. And the reason we've not is because we felt we could safely operate without it. And as soon as we feel we can safely operate without it, I'll make that same recommendation to you that we return to where we were. But I don't think it would be responsible on my part, particularly with the current numbers, not to do all we can to keep students safe and give us the opportunity to maintain in-person instruction.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Green, can you I know I talked to you this morning about the, requirement, well, not required to get the testing, but a lot of people, I guess, was under the impression that they have to have the testing before they send their children back to school. You just elaborate on that, and also, to make sure, I don't care what the symptoms is, if they got a runny nose, if you don't know what's going on with your child, please keep them at home. To try to keep everybody safe, because we just don't know, you know, one person might have one symptom, the next person might have another symptom. You just don't know what's going on. You got the flu going on, you got allergies going on. It's just a lot going on right now, and you just don't know the symptoms right now. All of the same to me.
Yeah, so the first question, Ms. Harrison, Dr. Avery sent something out from Parent Square today, reminding parents that the expectation is that they send all students back to school on tomorrow, even though we have recommended that they be tested. That is not a requirement to return to school. And so that message went out earlier today. I think it may be on some of our social media platforms. So I appreciate you bringing that up. All parents are to send students to school tomorrow. Rather you took the COVID-19 test and are waiting the results. Rather you weren't able to get tested, rather you got tested, unless you're positive. I mean, as long as you are negative or don't know you're positive, we want you to send your kids back to school on tomorrow. What was your other question was about kids not going to school if they have something. Exactly right. I mean, it is everyone's responsibility to do all you can to ensure that you keep your neighbors safe. And so we are counting on one another. Okay. If you know you're positive or you know you're experiencing symptoms that you may be positive, let's not put others at risk. This Omicron variant, based on what I've read, is 2.5 times more transmissible than the Delta variant. 2.5 times more transmissible, and the Delta variant was already transmissible. And so I have read reports where significant numbers of individuals who have come into contact with one positive person ended up testing positive as well. And as much as, you know, people tell me, well, you know, very often you can contract COVID-19 and you have a little sniffle, a runny nose, or no symptoms at all, and then you end up fine. And that is true. But over 800,000 people have died as a function of COVID-19. I personally, over the last month, have lost 2 family members to COVID-19. I personally have lost 2 family members to COVID-19 over the last month. And so when people tell me that, you know, it's likely that you can contract it and you'll be fine, you may, okay? But that's a gamble that I don't know if anyone should be looking to take. You don't have to, okay? And so we're going to continue to encourage people to get vaccinated because the statistics are very clear. As you look at the percentage of people who are hospitalized, the percentage of people who end up passing COVID-19, it is primarily the unvaccinated. I read a study today where less than 0.2%, somewhere around there, of all deaths are to vaccinated individuals. So 99+% of the individuals who have died from COVID-19 have been unvaccinated. So, I mean, the numbers are pretty clear. You are at much greater risk if you're unvaccinated. So even if you may contract COVID-19, the likelihood that you have severe illness or death are significantly reduced if you're vaccinated. So, you know, vaccinations are something that we'll continue to encourage as well. But I think this mask requirement is something that is an extra tool in our tool belt to try and create a safe environment, one in which our students can thrive and continue to be exposed to in-person instruction.
Reverend Jackson, Chairman Miller, can I just make a statement of caution?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to caution everybody to listen to the CDC and the medical personnel and so forth regarding anything that has to do with COVID-19 and not pay so much attention to social media and other outlets. I heard before I came here that there is another variant out there already besides Omicron. I don't know how true that is, but my point is that folks are saying all kinds of things and people get bent out of shape based on innuendo, rumors and so forth. That it's enough agony out there for real than for us to be taking in stuff that we don't need to be taking in. We're anxious enough about the real thing rather than getting upset over what may be. And I just want to say that just want to make a statement, that's all.
No question. Yes, sir. And let me say this, when we was talking about public comment, that's the time that you can come up and make a statement. The board meeting is going on now. So just give me a heads up. Yes, sir. At this time, we have a motion on the floor. Ms. Harris made a motion, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor, show by the raising of the right hand. That would be 7. At this time, there's no more, anybody have anything here?
Chairman, before we adjourn, I see the call last night, we lost one of our staff members at the elementary school, Mr. Baker. He is working to continue to keep him and his family in our prayers, is what I had.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Can I, because I'm a little
No, sir.
confused, I don't understand.
No, sir.
I said,
You speak to that.
Well, after you guys already vote, I don't get to say before you vote.
No, you can't, so you can't interrupt the meeting. Motion made by Ms. Harris, second by
you just
Green.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All in favor of adjournment, show by raising the right hand. That would be 7-0. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, yeah, it's about time.
I thought we were also. Oh, yeah.